If you're anything like I was in those first few years of teaching, your standard routine probably looked something like this. You wake up early, you teach all day, you work all night, you barely have time to take a shower, eat dinner, like forget about working out or time for yourself, and then you wake up and you do it all over again. And quite frankly, the weekends probably aren't any better. Perhaps you take Friday night off and maybe Saturday. Come Sunday, you are right back to working, grading, or pretending like you're gonna grade that massive pile of essays sitting in your teaching bag, right? You're dreading the week ahead because you're just going to be burning the candles at both ends, day in and day out. Trust me when I say I have been there. I was you, I quit, I left the classroom, and then I came back to it. I wrote a whole book about it with Jessica, my business partner at EB. It was a huge part of my life. And if what I just described resonates with you perfectly or even very closely depicts how you're operating day after day, I'm here to tell you that the single most effective thing that you can do to get out of that constant state of overwhelm is to batch plan. Like literally, if you're looking for the magic thing to change everything for you, batch planning is it. And in this video, I'm just gonna cover some of the basics so that you can at least get an idea of what it entails and get started at a very novice level. But like with any skill in life, batch planning is something that takes practice and refining over time. In fact, there are so many like little components to batch planning that we wrote an entire book talking about our EB lesson planning approach. And shameless plug, I don't have a copy yet, here it is. Shameless plug, you can go grab it on Amazon. It's called The Empowered ELA Teacher. We talk about it all there, right? And if you wanna learn more too, we have tons of podcast episodes about it. And we also host a free PD workshop in the summer that focuses specifically on this. So be sure to click the link that I've included for you in the description to add your name to the waitlist for that free workshop. That way you'll be one of the first to know when details are available to the public. But like I said, for now, this video is going to cover the basics for you so you can at least get started this weekend or at some point this week. So at the very basic level, to batch plan means to sit down for a chunk of time and completely plan out your lessons for an entire year. I know, crazy, it's true. An entire unit or even a specific time period. But before we dive in, make sure that you hit subscribe where you're watching this video. And if you find this video helpful, be sure to share it with fellow ELA teachers. When you share our content, it helps us immensely in getting our message into the hands of more teachers just like you. So thank you for sharing. All right, so the steps to get started. Number one is you will want to schedule a set time to actually batch plan, like it's on your calendar and nothing can interrupt it. Pick a weekend and for 5 to 6 hours on both days, plan to be planning. Like I know that sounds crazy, but putting in the work up front allows you to reap the benefits exponentially in the long run. Like it is so freaking worth it. So grab snacks, drinks, all of the books that you need, supplies, activities you want to teach, whatever else it is that you need, and get focused. And what's great about batch planning is that you won't be wasting time context switching. Instead, you're hyper-focused on the task at hand, and you'll be able to knock out quite a bit of your planning in just that weekend alone. Step number 2, if this is your first time attempting this, plan in increments, like go slowly. We generally suggest like 90-day cycles because humans tend to stay focused for about 90 days and then they need to come back. And in our business practices here at EB Academics, that's why we plan based on quarterly goals. And the same concept basically applies to batch planning. 90 days is a little bit too lofty for you, which it might be if it's your first time doing it. Just plan for 2 weeks, right? If you can do an entire month or a unit completed, like all the more power to you. So start small if you need to. Step number 3. As you're planning, you'll want to choose content standards and use them as your North Star. The standards, whichever ones you happen to be using, should 100% guide your activities, your lessons, everything. If something that you want to bring into a lesson does not cover or address a standard, perhaps it's time to take a hard look at that particular activity. Like, does it really need to be included? Is it really going to help your students master the standards? Using the standards gives everything intention and purpose. And then lastly, step number 4, you absolutely have to include what we call floating days. No matter how great of a batch planner you become, it's inevitable that something happens that throws off your best laid plans. And when you include 2 floating days per unit or per month, that's the key to being able to make quick adjustments and move things that you have planned back. And if you don't do this, you're gonna end up with plans that never get used, or you'll feel stressed and pressed for time to get through a unit. So those are days where you plan absolutely nothing. And like I mentioned before, if you're interested in learning even more about batch planning, right, that's just the basics to get started. We have tons of podcast episodes about it, as well as that free PD workshop that I mentioned. So be sure to add your name to the wait list in the link below where I've included for you where you're watching this video. Thanks so much for watching, and hopefully you enjoyed this. I'm sharing 3 other videos that follow this particular concept of batch planning, where we'll be talking more about our EB lesson planning approach. So be sure to come back to the channel to check those out in the following weeks to come.